getting over myself, I guess, for lack of better words, is getting past that own fighting of trusting somebody else or inviting somebody else into the relationship, or even kind of opening up to your spouse, your wife, in that sense of what the hell you actually went through as a child, how you're raised, what the expectations were on you, and hence why you had the expectations you have. Opened my eyes to how I was trying to raise her in the same manner, but not realizing it. And then after doing it, going, I didn't mean to do that. Why did I do that?
Ever feel like you suck at this job? Motherhood, I mean. Have too much anxiety and not enough patience? Too much yelling, not enough play? There's no manual, no village, no guarantees. The stakes are high. We want so badly to get it right. But this is survival mode. We're just trying to make it to bedtime. So if you're full of mom guilt, your temper scares you, you feel like you're screwing everything up, and you're afraid to admit any of those things out loud, this podcast is for you. This is Failing Motherhood. I'm Danielle Bettman, and each week we'll chat with a mom ready to be real, sharing her insecurities, her fears, her failures, and her wins. We do not have it all figured out. That's not the goal. The goal is to remind you, you are the mom your kids need. They need what you have, you are good enough, and you're not alone. I hope you pop in earbuds, somehow sneak away, and get ready to hear some hope from the trenches. You belong here, friend. We're so glad you're here. Hey, it's Danielle. You are going to be pretty hard-pressed to find more honesty than what is inside this conversation. In today's episode, I have the honor of interviewing Joseph and Sarah, a family that I had the chance to come alongside and support and work with over last winter. And fair warning, Joseph describes himself as a blunt, tell it like it is kind of guy, and that is exactly what we get from him today. No fluff, no sugarcoating, the real deal. And I think you'll appreciate the way that he says what others are thinking, maybe other dads or other Gen X parents. So he has gone from being incredibly skeptical of gentle parenting itself, let alone my program or working with me, to being on my podcast. And there is truly nothing more fulfilling than getting to recap and showcase a client's full transformation on a platform like this. And I can't wait for you to hear it. In this conversation, we talk about the ways that they've been able to get on the same page, the hacks that they found that were a lifesaver for bedtime, and how much they have changed and grown and what that looks like, finally improving their daughter's behavior like nothing else they tried did. So if your partner is skeptical of what you are doing, send them this episode. The way that they describe their mentality for parenting now at the end of this episode is so well said and inspiring. So here is my conversation with Joseph and Sarah. Welcome to Failing Motherhood. My name is Danielle Bettman, and on today's episode, I am joined by previous clients, Sarah and Joseph. Thank you guys so much for taking time to join me on the show. It means so much. I feel like when we very first met, I knew you were either going to be an awesome success story or I would never hear from you again.
Pretty much sums it up well.
So welcome. Go ahead and give a quick intro to my listeners. Who are you? Who's in your family? And what do you remember about parenting 6 to 9 months ago? Did you ever feel like you were failing?
So I'm Sarah and my husband Joseph, and we have a little girl, Harper, who is 7. And then Joseph has a daughter who is almost 21 now. So definitely a lot of dynamics in our household of the age gap and figuring out how to handle especially when we started this, a child in college and one trying to figure out where we were going, being 6 at the time. And we were just really kind of at our wits' end. It was very hard, very challenging every day, every week. You just weren't sure how you were going to get out and not continue to just yell at her or have her yell at us, slamming doors, all kinds of stuff, to where it was like, how do we work together as a family so that we can move positively? It was just super challenging. And I can't thank you enough for getting us to the point we are today.
Yeah, to be honest, it was hell. It was hell. You all are going through it was hell. You were fighting with the kid, you're pulling your hair out, you weren't knowing what to do. You felt like you were failing at every turn of the events because everything you tried that you remembered from your childhood that worked for you isn't working for them. So you're constantly like running into a brick wall and going, well, if I run harder, maybe I'll punch through. That's how I describe it.
Yeah. I mean, and I had looked at all kinds of things. I had read books. I had done other podcasts. I was trying anything I could do to figure out, what systems would work, what I thought would work best. Okay, let's try a routine. Let's try this. Let's try that. And it just wasn't getting us anywhere. It felt like it was getting worse. And I think I mentioned it on our first call. The thing that really broke the camel was when she asked me, why did I love her if she was so bad?
Oh.
And that's when it was one of those, it was like, we've got to do something. We cannot continue to live like this.
Ugh. I remember that. I do.
Still breaks my heart.
Yeah. And it's so understandable and so much more prevalent than you think. And it's not because you weren't trying. It's not because of a lack of good intentions. It's not because of the just being, really carefree. You had exhausted every resource you had come across. I mean, the most effort and energy thrown into parenting that you can. And it feels like if that was your reality, what conclusions can we come to?
Mm-hmm.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you would get moments of clarity, like almost like somebody that's going through like Alzheimer's, is the kid would go crazy, and then all of a sudden you have a moment of clarity where she's the perfect angel, and you could go, hey, do XYZ, boom, 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 it's done. And then 5 seconds later, it's screw you, who are you? I'm gonna fight you at every turn of the events. And it's like, what's going on? So yeah, I mean, like, I think that question came in like that moment of clarity after she's getting in trouble where she's like, oh hell, I am really just fighting on everything. Why? And then 5 seconds later, it's right back to the same attitude. And I mean, I'm sure everybody listening to this is probably, oh, that's my life. That's exactly what the hell I'm going through. And yeah, it sucks. We've come pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want to tell the story too quickly. We got to save some good stuff for the end. So don't give it too much away. I mean, stick with what you feel like was the story you were telling yourself or the conclusions you had come to. What had you tried? What did you feel like was necessary at that point? I mean, just really speak to your mindset around parenting prior to kind of coming across our meeting.
I mean, Joseph and I have a very different setup than most families. He works in the evenings, but he's home, so he's kind of up and down. And then I work more during the daytime. So there were lots of nights that it was just her and I for dinner, for bedtime. And it was just a constant, okay, we're going to try a schedule. We're going to try, hey, you have this much time to eat, and then we'll move into something fun, and then we'll do this. And, trying to set that routine of, okay, it's bedtime. So that means we need to brush our hair, brush our teeth, get pajamas on, like just making it very simple, not having a whole lot of extra things from it. And I work in a nursing home and dealing with the therapy department. So I understand with geriatric patients, we want to give very simple, like one-step commands, like you don't overload them. But even that, it was like nothing. She was like, no, I'm not. And it wasn't an even like she'd go do one task and then forget the next. It was a defiant, I'm not doing that. I'm not going, I'm not doing it, screaming. And then I'm upset, and not wanting to take, like, go take time, let's do anything. Let's go do it together. It was just a constant no. And then to the point where there were times where Joseph would have to come up on his break to be like, I need you to step in because I can't do this. She's slamming doors at me, whatever. Like I'm at the point where I'm almost in tears. I need your help because we're not getting anywhere. But it didn't matter whether we did the chore chart, the reward chart, anything, nothing seemed to really help. And then there were days, we have a nanny that comes 3 days a week. And there were days that Nancy would be like, she was perfect. She did everything. And then all of a sudden it's me. And she's like, I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, okay, could you do one thing for me?
How do you not take that personally?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, what is it with me? And so
Yeah.
it's just, it was such a beating a head against the wall. Like, I don't know what else to try. I don't know what else to do. I've tried to make it fun. I've tried to, do it with you. I've tried to say, okay, if we do this, then we can watch a movie, or we could do, like, it didn't matter what we offered. If she didn't want to do it, she wasn't moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sarah took the very much the gentle parenting approach that is so common these days, the past 10 years, whatever you want to phrase it as. Now I take the 60s, 70s parents, 80s parents approach of I'm going to beat the hell out of you until you fold into what I've asked you to do. And so she would try her way, and then obviously she'd beat her head against the wall, and Harp would scream and fight back. And I come up on break and beat the hell out of kid until we all lost. And that was the reality, is nobody freaking won. Everybody lost.
Yeah.
She was upset that I was beating the child. I was upset that I'd reverted to my father, my upbringing, being my child. And the kid was upset that she was getting beat.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, that was reality. And we're going through that every couple of days. And then she'd be with Nancy the next day, and perfect angel. She'd be with the grandparents, perfect angel. And it's like, okay, what the hell? We're mom and dad. You're with us. Why are we listening to us?
Oh my gosh, so defeating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So defeating. And I appreciate that level of just transparency and honesty that you paint that picture with, because it really does feel like when you are that desperate and that low of a vicious cycle, nobody else is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else has it figured out. Nobody else is having problems with their kid like you are. Clearly, you are failing something so important. I mean, you can't help but spiral personally, be at each other's throats about it. It's so stressful.
Yeah. And it was so hard to even see, not even just with, our parents and Nancy, but with, when it's she would go to church, she was great. When she would go to her homeschool program, she was great. And you'd see her with other kids and you're like, look at this, you can do it. Why, when we're here? I'm like, what is it about these four walls with us that just, and I know it's you've read things all the time where it's well, they're more comfortable with you, so they act out more. And I'm like, okay, well, we've got to figure out a way to tone this down, because we're not living cohesively, and this has got to be better.
Yeah. So, Joseph, before we get too much farther on, I would love to hear your perspective of gentle parenting, aside from our work together. But what were your skeptical hesitations with gentle parenting?
I'm 42. I was born in 82. I was brought up very much in a single family home. My mom and dad divorced at, God, I think I was 1 or 2 years old, kind of a deal. So I had my mom raising me, and she was working her ass off to support me. And I get in trouble, and you come home and you get the hell beat out of you, literally. And so that gentle parenting is not getting hell beat out of you. Just, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Here's a piece of candy if you brush your teeth. That kind of mentality, or let's make a chore chart and let's make it fun and give her a reward for it all. No, I asked you to do something. Do it because I said do it. And that, to me, I guess for us older guys, and maybe it's different for the girls, is that's how it was. Is you did what you were told to do because you were told to do it, or otherwise you literally got the hell beat out of you. I literally remember going to the ER because I got the hell beat out of me that bad by a stepdad. That's the upbringing I had. So the whole well, I asked her 3 times and she didn't do it. Well, she's going to do it one way or the other, or we may end up in the ER. And then I went, shit, I'm repeating the cycle. This is not healthy. I didn't like it. I'm not doing it. And I have a 21-year-old, as she said. I wanted to do it with her, but I wasn't in that parenting 24/7 because me and her mother got divorced. So I had her every other weekend. I was fun dad. So fun dad got good behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a whole different perspective with Harper, and beating my head against the wall was enough. And I felt like, screw it. Whatever the hell you want to try, let's try it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that's one of the key points too, is that was one of the struggles we were having is he kept saying, his older daughter, he didn't have these struggles. She didn't do this. She didn't do that. She didn't do that. And I kept saying, you didn't have her full time during this whole phase. You got to have her for 48 hours every other week. You didn't care what she did. She may have acted out much, but then within 24 hours, she was gone. And it took 2 weeks before you had her again. So you had long forgotten what it was like. You weren't in it with no relief. And I kept saying, I'm like, you can't, because I'm like, Harper's not a bad kid. You're just stuck in this struggle 24/7. You don't get out of it. We don't have anywhere to send her for 2 weeks to come back to us to be fun parents.
Maybe that's what you should start doing. A camp where we just send it to you for 2 weeks and we get them back every other weekend.
There we go. That would solve all the problems.
Yes.
Like dog training. We just send it to you and you train them with back.
Isn't that like Cesar Millan's approach? He takes them to like his
Yeah.
camp. Perfect.
The child whisperer.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you quickly realized that your girls have different temperaments too.
Absolutely.
Right. Same situation, different results, different reactions, different triggers, different levels of intensity with knowing what they want and fighting for it. And that sets you up for a whole nother challenge as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think what me and Sarah butted heads with at the very beginning with the obstinate behavior, as I call it, was our mentalities, I guess, more than her obstinance was. And this drove Sarah crazy before we even had Harper, is my eldest was what was my phrasing? Children meant to be seen, not heard.
Oh, sure.
And I said, I'm not raising my child that way.
Yeah.
She will have a voice and she will be able to say what she wants. And, I'm paying for it now, but
asked and answered.
I have gotten what I wanted. But I just remember there were so many times, like with my stepdaughter, that you would ask her a basic thing, like, what do you want for dinner tonight? And it was like, I don't know. You'd list, do you want Italian? Do you want this? Do you want, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we took her to Disney World for a week when she was like 13. Well, what was your favorite part of today? I don't know. Come on, have some opinions, have a thought process, and so, I mean, her and I have worked on it. She can't stand my questions, but I still ask them. But I even do it with Harper because I'm like, I want you to be able to articulate what you did or what you want, or, you may not always get what you want, but hey, what are you thinking for dinner tonight?
Mm-hmm.
There are many times she'll throw out crab legs and I'm like, it's not happening tonight. But I appreciate that you have an opinion.
She is exactly who she tells you she is, and you love her for it. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. So what led you to me, if you remember, and then what hesitations did you have with working together?
So I had read books, I had listened to some other podcasts, and I just happened upon your podcast, and I had listened to a couple of them. And before even asking Joseph, I sent an email and said, hey, I want to do this. And because I think on your email, it says like, it'll take like a couple days or whatever to respond. And so I was like, okay, cool. I got a couple days to talk about it with him. And then I think within like 5 hours, I had an email and I was like, oh, that came quicker than I thought. So then I had to, I'm telling Joseph, I'm like, okay, here's what I've done. And I really want to, sit down and talk with her and just kind of see a little bit more about the program, and how this would work. And he was like, I'm not doing it. This is dumb. And we had to work through some emotions of getting to the consultation.
Fair. What was your side of things, Joseph?
Exactly what you said. I never, and I think it goes back to the way the older, I guess I call myself older now. Hell, that sucks. The older parents were raised is mental health and therapists, and having that outside perspective was, God, no, you don't fail that hard. And if you do, you certainly don't let the general public and invite somebody in to help you. That's a big no-no. Like, stay the hell away or stay as far as away from that as you can. And so the even the thought of it was like, God, there, like, I don't know this weird woman. You want to bring her in and have her look through our lives and tell us what the hell we're doing wrong? Screw that. Let's look at her life and see what she's doing wrong. Like, no, it just went, it literally ate away at everything inside of me. And I was just like, no, but I love my wife, I love my family. So screw it. We'll try it. We'll figure it out. And if it is what it is, I can hold that in my back pocket for years and go, I told you so.
Fair. Silver lining? I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. Y'all do it to us. I was looking for one to do it back to y'all.
Anything to add to that, Sarah, on your end?
No, I mean, because that was pretty, and I mean, I remember sitting through the consultation going, oh my gosh, she's never going to want to work with us. He's never going to agree to this, but we've got to do something. Something has to change, you know? And like I said, I had done books, I had done podcasts, I had researched, I had tried, I didn't know where else to go. And that's pretty much what I kind of told him. I was like, I think I got to the point where I said, you can either do it with me or not, but I'm doing this. Like it had gotten kind of to that point. Cause I know that's one of your questions on the thing too, where it's like, is your partner doing it with you? And I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, maybe not. But I have to do something, you know? And so he finally, he was like, I will do it. I will commit to it. And there was still a little bit of, you know, reservation, even as like the first week or so went along. But he, you know, there were many times that he actually listened to the videos and did the stuff before I did, just with work schedules. It's easier for him sometimes. And he'd be like, I'm already done. Are you? And I'm like, not yet. I'm working on it.
We love that.
But I'm like, but I appreciate your commitment level.
Yes. Well, so was there anything I said that compelled you to kind of cross over that edge and say, let's do this together? Was there anything about meeting me or hearing about the group that, you know, actually convinced you that this might work, or, you know, this is what's aligned for us?
Yeah, for me, I think it was, and I know at first, like didn't really want to get in the group setting and talk to other people. And he was like, look, I don't mind doing this, but I just think the groups are kind of silly. And I think I was interested in both, but I really think I was more interested in the group session, just being able to communicate and talk with other people. Because as you said, so many times you think you're the only one. Everybody else is fine. Or, you know, just like Harper, she's fine when she's with other kids. So if there are other strong-willed kids in that group, they may be fine there. But when they go home, what their parents aren't telling us is that they're dealing with it. And it was like, I just need to know that we are not crazy and that we can get through this, but having that, you know, solidarity with somebody of we're not alone, you know, and being able to talk through it and work through it. So I think that was what I was more excited about. I do know as we kind of went through the class, he ended up liking the group session more than doing the weeks of work. Like that was where he enjoyed getting to talk and hear. And I mean, I think it was like the first or second call. I was like, oh, look at him already chiming in. Like not only is he listening, he's contributing. Like, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because you're Miss Quietness, sit back in the back and just read your lesson.
I like to observe first.
Yes, exactly. I'm more the outgoing personality. So, yeah, it is the group. Yeah, just like I said, the therapy, the inviting somebody into the personal life and kind of introducing all of our failures, all of our mistakes, all of our issues to somebody outside of the family goes against it. Doing that on a much broader level in a group setting with 10 or 15 other people that are supposedly having the same issue. Again, I don't know you from Adam. I'm paying you thousands of dollars for you to tell me what the hell I'm doing wrong. And then, oh, we're going into a magical group with 15 other people that are supposedly having the same issue. Just a hell of a lot for this skeptical guy to believe and buy into with the way I was raised. And so it's like, okay, I'll listen to the little thingies, I'll do the little lessons, and we'll talk about it. We'll try and figure out what applies, what doesn't apply. But the groups just seemed a little out there. And then I think they were Fridays of my memory stars, and that's kind of my lone day to do my yard work. And I usually listen to other podcasts and music and kind of just zone out and relax and kind of catch up on my week. And so I join in and I wouldn't go on camera. I just sit there and listen for a couple times. And then one of the other guys or women said something that caught my attention. I can't remember what it was. And it's like, that's exactly what I went through just a day ago. And that broke the mold. It was like, okay, this is not bullshit.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want your like realistic first person experience take of how your perception changed, because it's very hard to go against 40-ish years of conditioning and a whole bunch of background and your subconscious wiring. And there's a lot that creates the societal expectations of even your own perception of yourself and your identity as parents and like how you see your kid. And to overcome that and be vulnerable and to feel safe to be vulnerable and to actually buy in and to give it 100% and be convicted of it and confident in it in 3 short months is a lot to ask of someone. So that's why I'm genuinely like sitting in this with you, because I know there are a lot of families where the mom has probably found me months ago and is scared to bring it up and have a hard conversation because they know the skepticism is there and they know it's real and they know that they can't just like, flower over it. Like, no, it's going to be fine. Just trust me and trust her. And like, it's going to be great. You have a lot of real life concerns and hesitations that cannot just be like washed away by like, no, it's fine. It's just, several $1,000s. We'll just try it and, give it a little try. That's not what this is.
Like I told you there in one of the classes, is a lot of your stuff hits it nail on the head for women, and they can buy into it. And I hate to say there's a difference between men and women, but there is. I mean, they're emotionally, physically, everything. There's a difference in our brain chemistry that the way you talk and the way you've aligned your classes, that's your target audience. For guys, we're sitting back and we're going, I can smell the bullshit from here. This doesn't feed into what I was brought up with. This doesn't feed into how I was raised. We're meant to be protectors. We're meant to be the all-encompassing, all-knowing, and no matter what happens, don't break that shell. That's what guys are meant to be, and that's how guys at that point in time were raised. I don't know about today because I've got 2 girls, so I don't deal with that headache. So it's a lot for us as dads now to let down that shell. And I met a couple in our groups, and some of them were sticking with me, and they're right on the outside, like okay, and then I'd chime in after finally getting comfortable and say something, and then all of a sudden you see 2 or 3 like, oh yeah, same damn thing, and I'm like, yeah, like it doesn't help us to sit back and just keep our mouths shut. We got to let it loose and let the other dads and wives alone know what the hell is going on. Otherwise, nobody's making progress.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it has to be across the board buy-in. I mean, there still is value in a mom doing it for herself, for, the peace of mind of doing her due diligence and for having a lot less of that helplessness feeling. But there's still going to be a missing piece if her partner is not hearing the same thing at the same time, using the same language, having the same approach, ESP, and coming across with that consistency to their kid. There's still going to be a gap between how they react to each parent, or there's still going to be a gap between how their behavior is based on their relationship with each parent specifically and differently. So what pushed you over the edge? Because I know when you met me, you thought I was a hacky podcast host. And I was going to just be a little bit of a scammer. And you were really understandably kind of hard on me initially when we met. So was it kind of just like a blind trust in Sarah's judgment that pushed you over the edge?
Yeah, completely. I mean, I remember that first consultation was I had found a lady, and I can't remember her name at this point in time, but I'd listened to a couple of her.
I had found one of her books, and you had really liked her book.
That's what it was.
But it was more, and it was on strong-willed children, but it was more like in a school setting and how to really kind of work through some school stuff, but some other, kind of at home, but a lot of like school studying and stuff. And it was a lot more of older strong-willed children.
Yeah.
But he really liked what she had done.
Yeah, so I asked you about her, and you're like, I had no clue, and I'm like, yeah, I smell the scare from here. Like the lady was like from my memory, it was like a 5-time PhD and all this like big name crap, and it was like, okay, and the book really made sense, and but Sarah kept going, like, Danielle, listen to your podcast, and I never did. I just okay, if you like it, you trust her. We had the consultation. It is what it is. If it's, I don't even know what we paid for it, but I'm like, we're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. We had the money. I could throw it away and burn it. And it don't say it didn't matter, but I could afford to lose it on taking the risk to trust my wife. And so I did. Would I kicked her in the butt if it had all failed? Probably. It would have been, I told you so, like I said, but I wasn't going to be kicked out of my house if I lost the money and wasted it. So it was more of blind faith, trust the wife, her opinion, and she's never led me astray before. So that helped.
I would not have lived it down if it had not gone well. But I just, after listening to things and, like I said, doing my research and due diligence on all kind of other areas, I thought we've got to do something. And here we go.
Was there anything in particular that really spoke to you that gave you that gut feeling to trust your own intuition? Because you knew that, yeah, your marriage is like on the line now with this decision. I mean, we can joke about it, but to a certain point, there's a level of seriousness to that.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of listening to things, hearing things, and then knowing that I had listened to other books and I liked things, but nothing that I had really researched had an interactive thing. And even if it was just interactive with you and not with the group, something where I could come and say, hey, this is what happened. What do I do? Because that was the thing with the book. Like, I liked the book that we listened to, which is why I had him listen to it. But it was like, okay, great. I know what they did in this situation. And if that situation ever comes up, I know what to do.
Great. Yeah.
Okay, great. What about all these other ones that I'm currently living in? Like, I need more, of a feedback. And then there was another book you referenced on our consultation, and I cannot remember it right now, but I even listened to it about like negotiations and stuff. I'm realizing like, no, we're not negotiating. And that's one of the things I learned even through the classes. Like, I'm here to give you choices and I'm here to let you have some freedom, but there are things that's not negotiable and we're doing it. But it was just one of those things like I just needed, I'm somewhat in that visual kinesthetic learning, and not having feedback was, and like I said, I hadn't really seen anything else or liked anything else that really allowed that feedback to where, and that's what I knew I needed. I needed to be able to say, hey, what do we do here?
Yeah, and I think that was a big one because I checked into the other lady that I can't remember her name. I'd emailed her and like an agent responded, was like, "Oh, you want to have a group setting? It so it'd be like $150,000 for her to come out and talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay, that's one time about 150 grand." I'm like, this is 3 months for like 3 grand or something." Yeah, and this is to give the wife the feedback that somebody to bounce ideas off of, and even if it's her only bouncing ideas, she can come back and go, well, Danielle said we should try this, and then we could talk about it and we could have something to bounce off of. Even if I didn't buy into you fully at first, is it give her somebody to bounce her ideas off of and somebody to give her
a different perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you got to get out of your own head.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, my head was done. I didn't know where else to go. I'm like, I've tried everything that I can think of and I got nothing.
Yes. I've looked at this in every way, shape, form, and angle I possibly can, and I got nothing. So you know that you need something. It's just what at that point. And then, feeling like you have to have that level of troubleshooting, because not every kid needs every tool. Not every tool works for every kid. Not every script works in every situation. Everything is not black and white. It's extremely nuanced. There's always a million variables at any one given point. And it is not clear what to do in every unique circumstance you find yourself in with your kid at their age, with this temperament and this, lead up and this response and this patience level and, all of the other contingencies. Books are great. There's the whole internet at our fingertips and it's all amazing, except it just falls short and you stay stuck and then you beat yourself up because you should have figured this out by now. you have read everything there is on the subject and you still can't do it. So it's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does wonders for your psyche.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things that I know it came out in one of the classes that we did was, like I said, I work with geriatrics. I am so patient with them. Like I can get on your level. I can convince you. We can do all kinds of things. I can lift you up. And then I'm like, what is wrong with my kid? Why can't her and I get on the same page?
Yes. So frustrating.
Well, I think the biggest thing we wanted was like, and we'll probably get to this question, so sorry to skip ahead, but was figuring out each other's kind of breaking point of right where we can see her starting to just lose her shit and I would step in and vice versa. Instead of getting past that point and then the other person stepping in and trying to rein it back in and calm Harper down and calm Dwight down and do everything else to calm me down, is hitting it before you snap and being able to change parents and tag the heck out and go, hey, you both need 5 minutes. Go have it. And then, kid, when you're done with your 5 minutes, come talk to dad. Mom's had enough. Let's see what's going on because I wasn't here. And vice versa. And you get a totally different perspective after that without reaching that boiling point where they're both just screaming at each other or slamming doors and Harper's just, you're the worst parent in the world. I hate you.
Yeah.
Which is where you would get to.
Right. You can't work with that.
Yeah. And that goes back to the buy-in from both parents, is because that's one of the things we did learn was realizing like, hey, I need to tap out. It's your turn. Like you get to come in or hey, I'm better at this section. Let me tap in and you go take a breather. But both of us knowing kind of how aware of that, but also kind of what we were focusing on, what direction, so that whether we were going in, we both knew what we were going to try to do. It just you may hear it better. And that's where that buy-in from both is so crucial.
Because, yeah, you can tag out, but you may not trust the other person to understand what you are trying to do. And, you know, when you pass over that baton, you might be asking for an explosion. It might be a complete bust. And everything you just tried to do then backfires. And for either handoff, when you don't have that shared ESP, because you can't, you know, hey, T, pause your meltdown for a second. Let's go like regroup, have some sort of like action plan, list out our game, you know, our plays, and then get back into real time. You got to be able to already have had that figured out. And then's not the time to figure out how are we handling this behavior right now? So that's impossible to do if you don't have all that communication leading you up for much more success at that point of that handoff. And then just, you know, also not beating yourself up and giving yourself permission and not coming to the conclusion that you're a failure and, you know, all of the other things that plague you with that weight in that moment that can make it go wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't even know that. I'll disagree with you a little bit. I don't even need to know exactly where that conversation was headed.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to have a mutual game plan of how we handle those blow-ups.
Overall. Yeah.
What's our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is for her to listen calm, give proper responses, not be rude, that kind of thing. And so I don't care what the conversation was about. I don't need to know what the conversation was about. I don't need to know what you were asked to do or told to do. Is your responses when I walked up and tagged in were wrong. So let's take a time out, and then we'll talk about that, and then we'll move forward from there. Just to stop that progression of the anger, the frustration, and the constant obstinance is, I think, a big key for us. Because when she gets to that point of where I don't have to do it, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to. No matter what you say, I can't force her to do it. No matter how hard I beat her rear end, I can't force her to do it. She can sit there and fight me all she wants. And that's a hard freaking lesson to learn until you make it make sense and it finally clicks in your brain and you're like, well, I can hit her with a 2x4 and she still just sit there and go, haha, that hurt, but I'm not doing it. And that is our kid. It's like, I'd never hit her with a 2x4, but I could. And she'd just sit there and look at me and go,
you know exactly what would happen.
I'm not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so humbling, though, to really feel like you cannot overpower this other person.
Well, and especially when they're so little. they're so little and helpless in so many other ways. But when they want to dig their heels in, like there's nothing. And you're like, there's got to be
Who do you
something
think you are? Yeah.
that can happen. Something has to, get you in line. And especially like Joseph and I are very different. I am more of the rule follower and okay, you told me to do it. I'm going to go do it. And he is more of the defiant. And so many times I look at him and I'm like, this is you. I'm fighting with you.
100%.
She got it from someone.
Yeah.
Like, this is not me. All the questions, me.
Yeah. And that's what hey, Harper, go take out the trash. Why? Because it's full. But why? Because it stinks. But why? Because we put trash in it. Well, why do we put trash in it? Because it's the trash can. That drives me crazy. It's like, just do it because I said to. But that's her. And then that I'm not doing it is me. And I completely get it at their class and getting over myself, I guess, for lack of better words, is getting past that own fighting trusting somebody else or inviting somebody else into the relationship or even kind of opening up to your spouse, your wife, in that sense of what the hell you actually went through as a child, how you're raised, what the expectations were on you, and hence why you have the expectations you have. Opened my eyes to how I was trying to raise her in the same manner, but not realizing it. And then after doing it, going, I didn't mean to do that. Why did I do that? And have to roll back and go, hey, I didn't mean to do that, kid. I'm sorry. Here's what we should have done.
That is not easy. Not easy at all. And your kid is so lucky that you would go to that lengths of humbling yourself, going through that hard work of kind of finding answers to questions you didn't really want to ask, and then working on yourself enough to realize what is hers to work on and what is yours to work on and owning that. I mean, most people opt out, if we're being honest, of that level of work.
I tried.
He tried real hard.
Here's the deal. If your child is sensitive and smart, yet loses it, is clingy or aggressive with you at home, they can go 0 to 60 over the smallest things, like when they just don't get their way, nothing changes their mind, and they can't seem to get over it, and you know what you're doing isn't working, and siblings are starting to suffer. You could go to therapy yourself and take your child to therapy and follow all the experts and ask your family and friends for advice and take a course and set up a calm down corner and read all the parenting books and still feel defeated. It's time. It's time to learn the missing pieces of invaluable insight about their temperament that unlocks compassion in you and understanding of how to work with the way they're wired. It's time to communicate in new ways, like a hostage negotiator, to get through to them and cultivate cooperation with confidence. And it's time to eliminate the behaviors that are working to gain control and attention at their root, rather than playing whack-a-mole. Calm and Confident, the masterclass, is for you. There, you will master the kind and firm approach your strong-willed child needs without crushing their spirit or walking on eggshells. In this free training, I share the 4 critical kind and firm scripts that unlock cooperation in every situation, how to eliminate behaviors at their root, and the path to solidifying the open and honest relationship that you want to have with your child down the road. So go to parentingwholeheartedly.com/confident to access this exclusive on-demand training immediately. That's parentingwholeheartedly.com/confident. That link will be in the show notes. Okay, well, we've been teasing it the whole time. So what's the payoff, right? Like, what outcomes have you been able to get and maintain? Like, what has changed for you? What improved?
I would have to say, I mean, it's been an all-around improvement. I mean, it's hard to really touch on one area because we went from probably having 20 or so blow ups a week to, I mean, there may be a week where we don't have any or one. And sometimes it's not even that big of a blow up where you're just like, okay, that was a minor one. Or I know, like, I'm just going to walk away. Or, and sometimes we do fall into, back to our old ways of you forget some of the trainings or how I'm supposed to respond, or, you're just trying to argue or you're trying to push back. And instead of me just saying, walking away or just ignoring her, because we have found that half the time when she's really being defiant, if you just ignore her and don't respond, like, she'll quit. But I mean, it's just amazing to not have those and to have more of a system and just really setting our boundaries of, oftentimes with her and I, when it's just us on dinner times, we may watch a TV show, and so sometimes it's like, okay, instead of setting the timer of like, okay, you have 30 minutes for dinner, it's like, okay, we have one episode. When the episode's done, the TV's off. We're then going to go for a walk. We're going to do something. We're going to play a game, and then it's like, she's fine. We don't argue. We don't take forever. We don't, majority of the time, it's just, okay, we're good to go, and just really kind of knowing how to set those boundaries and saying, this is a non-negotiable. Okay, we've got some flexibility on this one. I mean, I just can't describe we don't really have slamming doors. She'll even say now on her own, hey, I need 5 minutes. Okay, go take your 5. Now, there are sometimes she tries to do it in front of us, and I'm like, okay, well, if you need 5 minutes, you need to go find another room. But you're welcome to your 5 minutes. I mean, but it really is amazing to kind of see that she is now more self-aware of, hey, I just need time, or hey, give me a minute, let me think on that. Because so often we're giving them too many choices. We're giving them like, oh, you open up the fridge, what do you want for lunch? Instead of saying, do you want this or this? Hey, we're going to have this snack. Do you want this or this? Because it does take forever because they're running through 100 things that it could be instead of just saying, do you want goldfish or do you want Cheez-Its or whatever it is? Like, here are your two choices. And then that way we also don't go through the fight of, oh, I want ice cream. Well, no, that's not an acceptable choice. Here are your two choices. And I have found so much of, just trying to pre-plan, let her know what's coming, making her more involved on things has really, really been a game changer for us. And just remembering, when need be, like the other day, Joseph called me a couple weeks ago and I was at work and he was at his wit's end. It was one of the bad ones. We hadn't had one like that in a long time. And we got off the phone and I just quickly sent him a text. I'm like, okay, remember what we're supposed to do. Make it fun. Make her take a break. You go take a break. We have our family agreement hanging up on the fridge and we refer to it often. Hey, is that on the family agreement? And she'll be like, no. Okay. So what are we supposed to do? It's just constantly reinforcing it. But I mean, I can't even describe how peaceful life has become in those in between moments instead of waiting anxiously for the next one.
Yeah. So good to hear.
Completely. And I don't even remember what the hell that one was a couple weeks ago, but yeah, she was pushing every button she knew she could push with me and doing it on purpose. You could almost see the smirk on her face when she was making those responses, knowing it was pissing me off. And she got me. She got me good, and I was just over it. And she'll still do it every once in a while just to see if she still can, I think. And it's just that brain chemistry, that mentality, whatever word you want to use to describe these kids is, I think they enjoy it. And I'm a smart ass. I'm sarcastic. And that is who I am. And I will argue with you and fight with you just for fun with a smile on my face because I can see how much it's aggravating you. So I know that's me, but God, she gets me bad. But yeah, we're, like she said, we're going from 20 to 30 a week, easily 4 to 5 a day, to 1 a week, 2 a week, maybe. And they're like minuscule. They're, okay, go take a 5 minute break, or you didn't eat enough today. You need something more to eat. You're just being grumpy because you're hangry. And the wife gets hangry. That seems to be the majority of hers, is getting that hangry little, I didn't eat enough. And so I'm starving, because at lunchtime I was more interested in playing, watching TV, doing my Legos, whatever she was doing, than eating. And it's typically after breakfast, like midday, or after lunch. Midday is when that fighting starts. And I'm like, you're hungry. No, I'm not. Okay. Well, daddy's gonna go have this. you want some? Oh yeah, yeah, I want that. I'm like, yeah, feed the kids. And after taking the classes, that mentality, that not that not feeding into, that not beating your head against the wall because she's beating her head against the wall, I think was the biggest change for me. Is I'm not, I can't remember the word you used to use, but it was like I'm not. We're not butting heads like two bulls trying to see who the hell's they push each other out of the ring. Your two sumo wrestlers is she can push against me all you want, but I'm not moving. This is non-negotiable. This is what we talked about. You know the rules, and if you want to keep fighting, you can go fight. Take 5 minutes in the room, and we'll talk about it afterwards when you've calmed down. Until that point, I'm done. And like I think I talked about last week in the meeting yesterday or 2 days ago, is that non-action has the biggest response. Is we just don't play into it. She looks at us and she's like, but you're not playing back into it. I'm not getting the response I want. I'm not getting that action from you guys. And we'll go on and we'll continue making dinner or having our conversation or walk outside and play with the dog. 5 minutes later, she comes out. She's like, I'm sorry. And then she'll go right back to doing whatever the heck we were doing. And it's like, who the hell is this kid? it's a dramatic change.
Yeah. And I think one of the things also, because we've gone through this and we've learned some other ways to work with her and kind of set us up for success from the beginning, we're now not stressing and having the anxiety about when is the next blow up going to happen? Where is it going to happen? How bad is it going to be? What's going to happen? We're able to be more attuned into her to recognize, hey, are you hungry? Or did you not sleep well last night? Or, oh, you've been super active today. Are we just tired? Like, instead, because about a week ago, we were playing a game out on the back porch and she wanted to play it. And it's a game that takes a bunch of different rounds. So you're constantly shuffling cards and redoing it again. And after about the third round, you could just look at her and you're like, do you not want to play anymore? Like, you look really tired. And instead of being like, hey, no, we said this, we're playing it, we're doing it. It was like, do you just want to go chill before bedtime? Because we're not waiting for the next blow up. We're like, and she was already ready for bed. It was like, okay, you can just go to bed or you can go read a book or go chill out with, TV for 20 minutes because that's all you have till bedtime. But we're able to be more in tune to what's really going on with her, to be more aware that, hey, you're not just doing this for fun right now. There's something going on, and recognizing those, which also helps keep the peace.
Mm-hmm. That's really hard to recognize when it all just feels hard and messy and intentional and personal and never ending, right? You can't breathe before the next one.
Oh God, we weren't recognizing it 6-9 months ago, whatever, like at all. That game night when she begged to play, I went downstairs and I got my poker card shuffler because she wanted to use it, and it's like 800 cards that you mix together to play this game. And she was having fun, and then by the third round, she was over it. You could see it on the face, and you could see she's just kind of pushing and picking. And we would have, you asked to play this, we would have been out here to play this for you. We would have pushed that edge of you committed to something, let's finish it, versus going, you're tired, we can finish this another day. Let's just go have a peaceful evening. So big dramatic change, I think, more on us as parents than on the kid's behavior, and the kid responds back to us and we respond back to her. So it's an equal opportunity fixer.
Mm-hmm. It's like a vicious cycle, but on the positive direction.
Yeah, 100% at the last, because like I said, I didn't want to commit to it. I didn't realize, I think I told you this before our class ended, was the biggest change I saw throughout the months and weeks of doing the classes and doing the work and doing all the lessons. And I don't think everyone listened to the podcast, listened to a couple of the videos throughout or the audio lessons throughout, was that a lot of that deal was targeted towards the gentleman. It was targeted more towards the wives. But the biggest thing I learned was that I'm beating my head against the wall, trying to make her listen as I expected to, and she never will. She's so listen the way she wants to. And I've got to learn how to respond to that to help keep the peace. You're not a dog. You don't have to do exactly what I say. Is I got to figure out how to make that middle ground without giving up complete control. And that's the hardest freaking thing for me, was giving up complete control. I was like, no. And so I've kept my dad's stance of, you do X, Y, Z, and then we can go do ABC. And if you don't do X, Y, Z, well, then you've lost A. We'll try again and we'll work on B and C. And she does pretty well. She wants to go bowling tomorrow, I think. We'll see.
So how would you describe how my program is different from what you thought gentle parenting was that we talked about at the beginning?
It wasn't just give in, cave into the kids. It wasn't whatever she says goes and you're the asshole if you say no. It was very much a let's look at your parenting techniques. Let's look at what words you're using and let's look at how the kid is responding, which I hadn't really necessarily considered. My words were my words. My attitude is my attitude. I'm the adult. I'm the parent. I'm the dad. You don't listen to what I have to say. Again, that mentality versus going, hey, kid, go take 5 minutes. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to think about my response. I'm going to think about your response to what I just said. And let's see if we can kind of come to some sort of understanding where you can see where you're coming from, because there's obviously something about what I just said that triggered you. And how can I rephrase it to get what I want to get done without triggering that fighting response?
Ooh, that's a great way to put it.
And that's what it was. Is we're all triggered by fight or flight. And her response when we hit that, you have to do X, was to fight right back.
Yep.
And I need to figure out how to do X. And you do it without triggering that. I'm going to fight you on every turn of the events. Whereas the way I thought the class was to be is, oh, she wants ice cream to do X. Just give her ice cream and she'll go do it. And yay, it'll be rainbows and sunshine. And you'll just get ran the hell over by your kid. It is what I came into the class expecting completely. So I'd say it's completely 180 of what I thought it was to be. There's still some things in there that I went, and we figured out how to make it work for me and my family. But overall, worth every penny of it. I thanked you numerous times. It was more, like I said, a learning experience for me and my own mentality and my own personality than I think a guide to raising my kid is. Once I worked on me, I could see how to do her. If that makes sense.
100% makes sense.
Very much so.
Because it's your own self-sabotage. It's your own head and ego and, mindset that inhibits you from making a strategy work or using a script or doing a thing that is, taught by whatever expert. It doesn't even matter what that parenting hack is. It's inaccessible, it doesn't make sense, or you can't implement it, or it doesn't work because of the mindset or the understanding or, all of that is a huge foundational prerequisite. And then you can, take what you love, leave what you don't, a lot of the other hacks for the moment. And it matters less the what when you have the true understanding of the how, and you feel truly confident that what you're doing is the right thing and it's effective and it's working and it's getting you to the place where your relationships are where you want them to be in the long run. But without that peace of mind, it's real hard to feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah, completely. Like, real quick story, because I know we're running short on time, is last night she wanted to cook dinner. And I said, hey, we're the fire up the Traeger, we're the make hot dogs. Sarah hadn't got home yet. We fired up Traeger, we threw hot dogs on. She did the whole thing. I'm like, don't burn yourself. She sat down, she's happy, cranked up temperature, did everything. I had to go run and help somebody with something. And I go, Sarah, pull the hot dogs off. I'm out front. Harper comes out crying, bawling their eyes out. Mama wouldn't let me pull them off. And I went, I told your mom to pull them off. Completely forgot you were cooking. You were helping me. We went back in. Daddy and her put them back on the grill. She got them off, put them right back into the plate. Happiest to me. It was that simple of I had made a promise, didn't relay that promise. So you fix it.
Yeah.
And she was happy.
But I bet, 6 months ago or another parent could see that same moment and read it as, oh, what an entitled, spoiled little brat who can't handle any adversity and wants everything to be her way and she wanted to do it. So the fact that you can read that situation for what it is now rather than what you could interpret it as easily, that sets off all the alarm bells in you of a reaction. is the best type of example of the internal change that you have gone through.
Completely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because Sarah could have fought back and been like, no, hell no, I pulled it off. No, I made a promise. Keep your promises just like we expect her to.
Yeah. And that's where she trusts you.
She looked at me like I didn't even get a chance to say anything before she was gone. And I'm like, he told me to pull him off. I did what I was supposed to.
I know what I did wrong.
What to do? And then he came in and explained it. And I was like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And then even yesterday, there was something I went in and I was giving her a hug and she was in a little bit of a mood. You could tell she was hungry. And she was like, I'm just playing with my Legos. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. And she was like, no, you're fine. She's like, I was just letting daddy told me to play with the Legos. So I was just letting him know that I was doing it. And I'm like, oh, okay. But it was like that communication of like, you can now say what you need. And we aren't getting frustrated.
There's mutual respect.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so key to build trust and credibility so that she does take you seriously and your word does hold true. And you don't have to loft a whole bunch of empty threats that, you don't take action on, and everything that's coming out of your mouth, she takes problem with. There's an understanding back and forth between the two of you. You still don't have to like everything that the other person does, but that sets you up for so much more of a peaceful household. And that's what we all want.
Yeah. And the empty threats are, I think, the biggest thing that we threw out the window is we used to make empty threats like constantly. Her iPad, her jewelry box, her whatever would get taken away because it was her favorite toy or her favorite thing of the week. And where they take it away, where they trash it. Screw putting it up. You've lost it. It's trash. Well, we all know we're not throwing away a $500 iPad. We're not throwing away the $30 lamp or whatever. Like, we're showing them they have it somewhere. We'll pull it out later and magically you'll earn it back. And it's the same freaking thing. You caught on to that so damn quick.
You're so smart. You're not going to pull that out all over her eyes.
Yeah. It's like within the first 2 items, she's like, it's up there. It's right in that cabinet behind mama.
Well, and not only that, I mean, it didn't matter. I mean, you could be in an argument and you could take away 10 different things. And that was one of the things doing all the research of learning with strong. They don't care. They don't care.
They don't care.
You could take it all. They don't care. And that came out in the book I listened to where the lady was talking about her son. And she was like, I literally at like 4 years old took all of his toys and gave them away. She goes, he never even asked for them. And I'm like, that would be Harper. Like, you've taken it away. It's gone. It's out of sight. I don't care. Yet I'm over here like, gosh, that was like one of your, like, you don't care about this toy. Like, but she could care less.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, something, I don't know what to do because clearly this isn't working. You can't lock her in a room, because I mean, I can't lock you in there all day kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah.
It's like something.
I got nothing else.
What do I do? Like,
Well, I tried and then she picked the lock.
Yeah, she figured out how to pick. Like, it was just, I'm like, okay, I don't know what else to do because if you had taken away something of mine when I was little, I would have done whatever you wanted to get it back.
Yeah. She's not you. She is a different kid.
She is
different breed.
not. I'm like, why doesn't this matter to you?
And then it feels like she's winning, right?
Wholeheartedly, she was winning.
Yeah. Yeah. And that only makes you double down and panic more and do all the worst things that are going to backfire.
Well, and that was one of the things Joseph kept saying. I'm not having my child run this house. I'm not having it. I'm like, okay, well, then we have to figure out something, which is kind of the point I brought up when, cycling through of do we do this? Do we not? It was like, what solution do you have? I have done the research. I have brought this to the table. Do you have something else? Because if not, here's the path.
Yeah. We did it. And I mean, it's worked. She's not running the house. She tips you every once in a while. And we do a little bit of pushback or a little bit of realignment. And she's like, okay. Because whenever she gets the attitude, I ask 2 questions. How old are you? And who's the adult? And she go, I'm 7. And I'm the adult. And I just look at her and smile. And I go, really? The house payment is $2,000 a month. You got the house payment? No. Like, who's the adult? You. Okay. So then let's figure out what we need to do. It's a little silly. It's a little goofy. It's a little funny, whatever you want to call it. But it just refocused her attention that she's not the adult, even though she wants to play it. And here's your 2 choices again. What are we doing? And that's 2, 3 at the most is where she excels. Anything more than that, You just see her brain shut down.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you've been a huge advocate for a particular strategy that was game changing for you guys, which we can happily share on the podcast. What has made bedtime so much better at your house?
Using a podcast. That has definitely been one of the things. We had always had like a sound machine in her room, typically like a different colored light or like a little light display thing that would work. But definitely she loved to read, and you could turn the light out and hardly have anything but the little night light, and she would just sit there and read all night. And so having the podcast where she could listen to it and help her fall asleep was a game changer for us. Just finding one that worked for us. And then just that way we could control it. Depending on the night, she could listen to 1 or 2 episodes. There were times we forgot, and I think it probably went on for 4 or 5 episodes, but she had long been asleep. But it just allowed her to relax and rest and fall asleep without that added distraction of a book or turning pages, because that just keeps her awake more than anything. But I think even now, I mean, honestly, probably in the last month, we haven't really used the podcast as much, because it's kind of been one of those, like, if you're not in bed before bedtime, not trying to give her too much time to continue to be up, but even still, just really also kind of trying to incorporate making sure she's outside, she's doing something. We'll go for walks, we'll do whatever, because, if she can be more physically tired, also, she's not fighting with us as much. She's tired. And it's good for all of us. We're outside. I mean, most of the time in our neighborhood, like, we can go and we can find bunnies and all kinds of stuff, or we'll see turtles, and she's so excited walking around. Now she's keeping account of how many bunnies we see on all of our walks, but she's excited to go do it. So between the podcast and just physical activity for her, like, it's been life-changing for bedtime. I mean, she's not coming out of that room 4 and 5 times. We're not asking for a million things. I think it was 2 nights ago, I sent her to bed and I said I'd be over there in a couple minutes to snuggle. And by the time I got over there, she was asleep.
I love it.
And I was like,
yes.
This is amazing.
That's the dream.
Like I said in yesterday's class, is Sarah did it, as I put the stupid little color changing Wi-Fi bulbs in a room on just a little lamp, and that's now her nightlight. I go, and it will sound clear at 25-50%, so she can read a book until bedtime, and then Sarah can tell the little smart home Alexa, whatever device, to change the color to red and lower the brightness. And Harper knows when it hits red, it's now bedtime. Put up the book. And that has been just a game changer, because you're not going in there, you're not injecting yourself into the situation. It's a colored response that comes to her out of the blue, and she knows. And so you're not injecting yourself to start a fight. There's no room for her to fight. She sees the light and she knows what it is. And that took a couple weeks for her to kind of catch on to. But after that is when the light hits red, she's like, okay, bedtime. She puts the books up, lays down, and tries to sleep. So both of those things, I think, have been a huge advantage for bedtime. Not having to, I need a water, I need to pee, I need ice, I need a snack, I need this, I need that every 5 minutes like we were getting before. And I think most people with a strong-willed, obstinate, pain in the butt child, whatever you want to call them, get.
For sure. So as the very last summary, and then I'll ask the question I ask every guest, very last summary, to the parent that is still skeptical after listening to this whole conversation, that says, well, they're an anomaly. Their kid is probably not as bad as my kid. That sounds too good to be true. They're making it sound easy. What would you tell that parent about maybe even like the optimistic of things getting better, of working with me, of being able to kind of find some of these tools? What would you tell them?
From a dad, from a guy, from an 80s kid that was brought up to shrug off all this. If you can squeeze it out of your budget, do it. It's a lot of money. I'm not going to discount that. Was it worth every penny? Yeah, I'm not fighting with my kid. I'm not fighting with my wife. I'd probably pay 10 times what I did just to have that peace of mind. It has changed every day, the entire ecosphere of our house, I guess, for lack of a better word, is I'm not walking on eggshells, I guess, for lack of better words or phrasing, of what the hell am I to say or do to piss her off, to where I'm now to have a head-to-head drag-out battle with my 6-year-old, 7-year-old. If you can't afford it, listen to the damn podcast. I get it. It's a lot of money for most normal people. But if you can squeak it out of your budget and you invest the time and the effort and not hell, come into it with the same approach, come in with a skepticism,
Yeah.
but try it. And that's, I think the biggest thing is I was skeptical as hell, but I tried it. I bought into it after a couple of weeks, whatever it was, and started trying to implement little things and going, well, let's see what the hell this does. And I was seeing small improvements. I went, okay, well, that's better than it was. Let's try the next thing. Let's try the next thing. And it just kept seeing that small improvements. And talking with Sarah's, well, what did you do tonight? Oh, you did this. Okay. Well, let me try that tomorrow night. Oh, that worked. Okay. Well, what else can we do? And try to figure out all the little tricks of like, okay, we're adding on to the gameplay. We're figuring it out. And then, oh, you did this and that didn't work. Well, let me try it. Oh, it didn't work for me either. Okay, throw that completely the hell out the window and let's focus on what works. Because it's not all going to work. And I think that was the biggest skepticism, misconception, whatever word you want to use, is that everything you said was going to be golden, it was going to work, I think is what Sarah's feeling was. And I was more the skeptical, and I went, not everything's working. And I went, I'm just ignoring this part of it, and I'm focused on what works. Yeah, I just can't thank you enough. And like I said, you want more money, send me a bill.
It's just funny. That's okay.
Sarah will pay it.
Anything to add to that, Sarah?
I mean, I think it's just one of those things. If you haven't figured anything else out or you've tried everything, like it doesn't hurt to try something else and to try something different, because I think the interactions with you, with the group, they're invaluable. And that's just something you can't, even if there's nothing in the group that really resonated with you that one week, just knowing that other parents are going through something similar, you can't describe going, okay, my child is not the only crazy one. We're not the only ones that are ready to, to quit, to give up. Like we're working through this, and just having that, and having, like Joseph said, having somebody go, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel. Okay, cool. I'm not alone. Like I can't describe how much of a comfort that was to go, okay, I'm not the only one sitting over here crying about my child, not knowing what to do and not knowing where to turn. I mean, that group setting and that feedback to say, what do I do differently? Or which I love, what you start your group out with is, what are your wins? Having somebody that is invested and cares to say what went well, so that you are recognizing, hey, it wasn't all bad this week. We did make progress. I used the scripts, or I did this, or, oh my gosh, look how great the podcast has worked for us, or whatever it is. Like getting to share that with somebody that truly is invested and cares and can say, awesome, what next?
Yes. You can't fake that.
Yeah.
Fantastic way to summarize it. You say it way better than I could. And I so appreciate your honesty, because that is the only thing that another parent is actually going to trust and resonate with. And, your firsthand experience is going to be exactly what speaks to them in an entirely different way. So the last question I ask every guest that comes on is, how are you the parent your kid needs?
I would say from 6 to 9 months ago to now, I am the parent that my child needs, because we are not arguing. We're not going to bed frustrated. We're able to laugh and have fun and snuggle and create those truly good memories and be able to enjoy each other, to laugh and to play and not have to worry about when the next blow up's coming, to where, oh, I don't want to do that because that may set her off. Like I am more aware, and I'm more able to say, we're going to have a good day and we're going to have fun, and here's how we're going to do it.
And actually believe your own self.
Absolutely.
So good.
Yeah, I'll tag on to that. The house is not eggshells. The house is not landmines. We're not navigating and tiptoeing through the house as we're having a household, we're having a family, we're communicating, we're accomplishing what we need to accomplish on an everyday basis without having to worry about I won't say without having to worry about our phrasing, but without having to tiptoe around her feelings and what's going to cause her to blow up. It's much easier to go, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z because we've got to do A, B, C. And she's like, okay. And that's what I keep telling her. I'm like, all you have to do is say okay and move on. I go, and then we go do fun things. I go, we just have to get the basics out of the way. And so that seemed to be really working. And I think us not having to walk on this eggshells or avoid these landmines has just made it more of a pleasurable family experience. It's more of a bluey type atmosphere
Yes.
versus a Roseanne or a Simpsons, like, get the hell out of my face, leave me alone because you're aggravating the piss out of me. And they're still to aggravate you, and you're still to aggravate them. You're different people, as you can't be on the same page all the time. And she still has her blow-ups, and we still lose our shit. But that's so rare and far in between that it's unbelievable. I'll be quite honest with you. I never thought at the end of the program, like I told you, I never thought we'd come from point A to point Z in that short amount of time that we did. If there was a bigger skeptical person out there on this group, I don't think I've met them or seen them or heard them.
You take the cake.
Yeah. I told you, I'm not just to blow smoke up your ass. It's you that had to prove it, and the programs had to prove it to me. And it did.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said before, if you can afford it, you can squeak it out, whatever, and you're really at the point of where you're beating your head against the wall, try it. It really does help, as stupid as it sounds, coming from somebody you have no idea who the hell they are. It helped us. So thank you, y'all. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. It has been an honor to work with you. I'm so glad you're still in the graduate community so we can stay connected there. But again, there is no higher compliment than you being able to state your case of your experience inside the program and put your reputation on the line for my reputation. So again, thank you so much for taking the time and for being willing to share your family story. We all benefit from it and appreciate it so much. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Failing Motherhood. Your kids are so lucky to have you. If you loved this episode, take a screenshot right now and share it in your Instagram stories and tag me. If you're loving the podcast, be sure that you've subscribed and leave a review so we can help more moms know that they are not alone if they feel like they're failing motherhood on a daily basis. And if you're ready to transform your relationship with your strong-willed child and invest in the support you need to make it happen, schedule your free consultation using the link in the show notes. I can't wait to meet you. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on.